Hello, Standers. This is Sheila Hollinger from Marriage Revealed Ministries. Today I thought I would give you guys just a little something different to look at. This is what I look at every day. This is my 37-gallon aquarium. So while I'm doing my mentoring, while I'm recording videos, while I'm praying, doing ministry work, this is my view. So I just hope you enjoy this. It's very peaceful and relaxing. And God knows that we need some peace and some relaxation while we are tackling the many issues of standing that comes at us. And so I wanted to thank you all for the feedback on the question and answer video that I did. And I feel like it was something you guys really enjoyed from your feedback. So I'm going to do that again today. And I'm going to start with the actual video, some of the questions that were left on that. So one of the questions is dealing with narcissism. And that is such a, it's actually a topic that I don't mind talking about because, there's a lot of misunderstanding and misconception about narcissism. So I use the word selfishness. Okay. Everyday narcissism. We all have it. It's selfishness. Sometimes we get even more selfish. We get even more narcissistic. Okay. And that's just what I will refer to as really being selfish. But there is also a clinical diagnosed narcissism. And I know what that is about because I lived, my father, who has passed away now, had that type of narcissism. And it is very different. A lot of times the hard heart, will turn a person into someone very, very, very selfish, self-centered. That's what the hard heart is. And what happens at that time is you start to go looking for what the heck could be going on here, and you will, standards will discover narcissism, websites, support groups, all sorts of things, and it fits your hard-hearted spouse to a T. And then all of a sudden you have standards coming saying, I'm married to a narcissist. And they don't realize, that the spouse wasn't always that way. They suddenly turned selfish because of the hard heart. The hard heart is almost a sudden turning away from who they were to who they, suddenly become. And because it's all of this, pretty much the same characteristics as narcissism, when they go through that checklist, they're like, yep. Okay, yeah, my spouse is a narcissist. And then what does these websites and things tell you to do? Leave the spouse. And that's what this question here also confirms. They say that he says that his spouse is actually diagnosed through mandated psychological evaluation by court. Now, I'm not arguing with this. This was diagnosed. I would have to ask, though, is this what your spouse has always been like? So, again, if you take a hard-hearted person and put them through a psychological evaluation, right then and there, I would say most likely just about everyone is going to be diagnosed as a narcissist. But a narcissistic personality disorder is not something that's just going to suddenly show up right at the time it looks like your spouse is going through a spiritual crisis, a midlife crisis, a marriage crisis, right? So you have to understand that that kind of a personality disorder is going to always have been there. You're going to have known from pretty much the time you met them, the time you married them, throughout the marriage, that something has just been off. And then when you go through the checklist, you'd be like, okay, yeah, this has gone on this whole entire time, not just suddenly in the last, few months or the last year when all of a sudden, now they're claiming they're not happy and, I was a horrible spouse or whatever their claims are. So that to me is a huge difference in, narcissism. And I wish they would take away, everyday normal narcissism. I just call it selfishness. We all have it. Just like they say, when you really do study narcissism, they'll tell you narcissism is just simply being selfish. It's being inward. It's taking what they say, taking care of you, putting you first, right? And we all go through periods where we are just like, you know what, today I'm taking a break from life and I'm just going to focus on me. Okay, and that's not selfish sometimes, that's healing, and it's what we need to do. But we're talking about, if you decide, you know what, I'm just going to take a 7-month, 8-month, year break, and I'm just going to focus on me and let the world just, do whatever, and I'm just going to be focused on me. That can be a real selfish state, especially when you start to not take care of your responsibilities. And that's kind of going narcissistic in a way. So I am not a professional, but I will tell you that living life with someone who has who really does have narcissistic personality disorder, I want to say this: you can love them. You can learn about them. You can understand them. You can believe God for healing. You can believe God for change. You can believe God that He will help you to live with them, understand them, and parent with them. With my father, I started to really understand him better and better as time went on. And instead of taking everything so personal and taking things so hard and rejecting him because of his rejection of me, I started to understand and embrace, this is who he is, and we started to get along better. I started to understand him so much differently. It's like I understood his language and how he acted and why he was acting the way he was acting. And I just stopped reacting out of my own misunderstandings, and I just started to love him for who he was. And there was so much, I'm telling you, there was so much peace when I let go of the rejection of taking everything so darn personal and getting so hurt, getting so angry. And I would just say, oh, that's him. That's just who he is. But I'm going to also tell you, I also put my expectations on God to heal him. And so while I was living in that peace of saying, oh, okay, I get it. This is just who my dad is right now, until you heal him, until you bring him total mental healing and his heart and whatever, happens to a person. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. I don't understand fully narcissistic personality disorder. And I don't even understand, the hard heart, what physically, mentally goes on with that change that happens. But I do believe and I do know that God heals. And I watched my dad slowly change. The more he pressed into salvation and worked through his repentance, he had a lot of heart issues, a lot of brokenness in his childhood. He just really had a tough life. And so instead of taking that and saying, poor me, poor me, poor me, I decided to take it to understand our relationship. I decided to take it to understand he was broken, which created brokenness in me and turned me very hard and very bitter and very, very rejected, unworthy. There were so many things that came out of that. And as I forgave him, as I found understanding and truth through God and healing, I was able to just really forgive my dad. And that was so important. There was so much healing in just accepting my dad for who my dad was and not blaming him anymore for the ways the way he was. Sure, my dad could have pressed in deep and overcame and did things differently to heal and not, when I see things about myself that I don't like, I really want to change. I really want God to fix me. I really want to empty those things out and be a reflection of God. And so when I see someone okay with hurting other people, if I see someone completely okay with just being broken and not caring, and that's just who they are, yeah, it does bother me, or it did bother me a lot more. But then I have to go back to the time that I think, Sheila, you were very broken and you were overwhelmed by how broken you were. And you just was like, this is just who I am and I can't be fixed. And if God wants to fix me, he'll fix me. But I didn't want to tackle it myself. It was just too hard. It was just too many things. And so I just, I have to remember that. I have to find my compassion and understanding that some people just have so many issues that they don't know where to start. And it can be really hard for them to even attempt to go to God and ask God to heal them. But the great thing about this was, God already, he claimed me as his own, right? And when you're claimed as a child of God, he already has worked out a plan. He's already said, my daughter, my son, they're broken and I'm going to heal them. I'm going to fix them, but I have to do it the proper and appropriate time, because God's intention for you is to make you better. He's never out to destroy you. Yes, he is out to destroy what is destroying you. And sometimes we don't understand that, and we just take what's, happening to us so personal, and we get so hurt and so upset with God, especially those times when, God is letting all sorts of things come at you and you are just feeling, totally hurt. You're feeling totally rejected. You're feeling completely destroyed and ignored by God, unloved by God. But I'm telling you, it's those times when God is actually really drawing the closest to you, and he is attacking. He is chipping away. He is demolishing the strongholds of things that have been surrounding you that you are so unaware of. Okay. When I was in the deepest, darkest place, I had so much pride. I had so much shame. I had so much guilt, so much condemnation, right? That I couldn't even hear God. All I heard was the voice of shame, the voice of condemnation, and pride was always there to help protect me and defend me. Pride comes in and wants to be your savior. And so for God to even get through to me, so I could hear him and I could, acknowledge that he was there, I was always feeling sorry for myself. And that was one of the things that self-pity was a manipulation, that I used to try to get God to help me because I was hurting so bad. And so for God to get through all those things, he had to let certain things happen. He had to let certain things play out. Those things to me was painful. And I was always blaming God and accusing God of, you don't care about me. This is too hard to connect to you. Why is, none of what you say in the word is applying to me. It just seems like it would be so much easier, but it's not. And so I was always upset with God. I was always hurt by him. I was always in this place of, God, I don't understand why it is so hard to feel loved by you, feel appreciated, accepted, whatever it was. I shouldn't have said appreciated. Who wants to feel appreciated by God? You want to feel appreciated by your spouse. But I just always felt like, God, this is just too hard. None of this makes sense, why it's so hard. And I did not understand that it was because I was the one that was having issues with shame and condemnation and guilt and self-hatred and loathing myself. There was just so much piled on me. And this was like a mountain that was separating. I was buried in this dark, dark place. And so God knew he had to get through to me. He had to help me, heal in places. And so back to what I was trying to say, when God goes after those things that are, interfering with you, keeping you from him, it is going to feel like he is against you, because he is coming against a lot of things that you have used as a self-protection, as you have used, whatever to cope, to get by, and some of those are wrong understandings, some are wrong beliefs, some are just ways that we heal ourselves. And God has to dismantle a lot of things, okay? And so my thinking for you, my what I want to share with you is, you've got to stand firm on this one truth, that God is for you. Okay, if you are his child, then there is nothing about him that is out to destroy you. Everything about him is set in motion to help you, heal you, bring you wholeness. And so if you are in a dark place right now where things feel like life is completely falling apart, then you need to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what? Maybe it's possible that something about me is interfering and God is after that. Maybe I have pride. Maybe I have unbelief. Maybe I have rejection issues, unworthiness, condemnation. Something is making me feel like God doesn't love me, that God doesn't care about me, that God is trying to hurt me, trying to destroy me. Whatever it is, you've got to say, you know what? If this isn't who God is, right? The word doesn't say that he treats his child like this. The word says that, he treats our brokenness with a healing balm. Well, maybe that healing balm doesn't look exactly like I expect. Maybe that healing balm looks more like surgery, and then the bandages come, and then the healing balms come. But right now, it's the surgery, it's the cutting, right? His word in Job 5:18 says he shatters so he can fix, or some of the other translations, he breaks so he can bind. He, cuts so he can mend. So basically what it's saying is, he comes in with your skin perfectly fine. You don't think there's anything wrong, but underneath your skin, you've got an issue, and he has got to cut you open and perform surgery. That's pretty much what that scripture says. Okay, he's got to cut through something that is perfectly fine, that outer layer, perfectly fine, to get to what is wrong inside of you. And then, so, that's painful. We all understand surgery. All of us understand surgery, right? We all understand having to put a child through surgery and try to explain that. Forget it. You can't explain to them. You just have to do it. And if that's not a message right there, you can talk to your blue in the face to a young child and tell them, yeah, they've got to take this knife and they've got to cut you open, and they have got to, make you better. No, don't even bother. They're not going to comprehend. You're going to scare them to death. There's no reason to even say it. You take them to the doctor, you give them whatever it is that the doctors give them. I know with us, when we took our boys in for surgery, we didn't really explain exactly everything that was, we didn't tell them the scary stuff, but we did explain a few things. And the nurses, they came in with all sorts of fun and wonderful, distracting things. And then afterwards, the popsicles came out, everything. But I'm going to tell you right now, God will treat you at the level you're at. And if you are immature, in your, like a child, and you can't handle the hard stuff, he's not going to tell you. He's not going to want to scare you to death with that. Not at all. So he's going to come in and he's just going to do the surgery. You're not going to even know what's coming. But when you're in that recovery, you're going to be like, what the heck did I just go through? And why did I go through it? And then you're going to be in recovery. So you're not even going to realize that you are, that something that was in you that was harming you has been, touched by the healer. Not, especially not while you're in recovery and you feel, you went in feeling great, right? You went in feeling great, and then you come out and now you're all, in recovery, in a lot of pain. My boys were in a lot of pain. They were not in a lot of pain when they went in. They were fine. Okay. But that surgery, that had to, they couldn't walk, they couldn't move. They were in a lot of pain. And so we have to understand that that's how God works. He's not going to let you live with something totally wrong inside of you. And you are going to feel, most likely, if you don't understand what's going on, you're going to feel hurt. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel broken. And you're going to feel like, why did God do this to me? What is he doing to me? Doesn't he love me? Again, you can't let those questions distract you from who he really is. It is about you getting into the word. You're going to either believe he is good. You're either going to believe he is for you, whether or not you're feeling that. If you've just gone through surgery and if you're in recovery, you've got to make the decision. It's so much easier to say, okay, well, obviously I went to the doctor and I walked in and I'm fine. And now I'm being rolled out on a bed and I can't walk and I'm in a lot of pain. When I got here, I wasn't in pain. It's so much easier to understand that as a perspective of the doctor surgery relationship because you see it, you trust it, you understand it. But when it's a God situation and all of a sudden life, you're just, walking along in life and next thing you know, you're flat on your face crying, broken, hurt, destroyed. You don't look at it as that doctor situation. You take it personal. And you start to question, well, what's wrong with me? Why is God doing this to me? And then you throw in the enemy and the condemnation and all those other things, and it is a mess. And boy, I just really got away from this topic of answering questions. But I really felt that on my heart about understanding how God works all things out for our good. It really comes down to every day speaking that truth over yourself and saying, Lord, I've got to make this decision today. I'm feeling so hurt and so broken, but I've got to decide either you tell the truth and what is in your word is truth, or I'm just going to go by what I feel and what I think and what I constantly am being put through. Either this is for my good, or you're a liar and you're out to hurt me and you're out to destroy me. And none of that lines up with who he is. None of it. Yes, him attacking and dismantling, disrupting, going after things that are in you, wrong beliefs, all those things that don't belong. Yeah, that hurts. That hurts. And it's supposed to hurt. Especially when some of these things are sucking you dry. They're like leeches and they are really destroying you. You want to know pain? Wait till he's after your idols. Wait till those things that you have put in his place, he's got to, make them fall. Idols you don't just take them down off the shelf and leave that shelf bare. You're going to have to find something else to put there. Idols don't just, you don't just say, oh, I have an idol and it disappears. No, they have to fall. They have to be replaced. They have to be replaced. The way an idol is set up is something that you love, you rely on, you believe in, you trust in. It's your everything. That's what makes it an idol. And little by little by little is usually how you dismantle them and you replace them with God. God becomes your everything. So, yeah, I did get way off this topic about the narcissistic spouse, and God absolutely can heal them, can change them. And in the process of that, while you're waiting and while you're expecting and while you're believing, he can also work on your heart to help you understand them, help you love them, help you not take their brokenness so personally. And you can have a normal as can be relationship with someone who has some narcissistic personality traits. And again, with the self-diagnosis, we just don't do that. We don't diagnose someone. If you've never seen it before and all of a sudden it shows up, just call it selfishness, rebellious, hard heart. Just call it what Jesus calls it, the hard heart. Okay, so another question here, and I hope I can try to understand. They're asking about holding on for years. Is that faith? Is it long-suffering? Is it idolatry? I'm a firm believer that we're standing and we're doing this because God is calling us. Yeah, there are some people that are in a situation where they are not meant to stand. Let's just throw this out there. You divorced your spouse for whatever reason you want to give, and you are married to someone else, and now you're standing. And maybe this relationship was formed out of adultery. Maybe, you were hasty in leaving the first spouse. Whatever the reason. I've seen a lot. We had standers who, met online, and they decided they loved this person online better, so they divorced their spouse, married this other person, brought them over, got them their green card. Now they're standing for them. So we'll just use that as an excuse. Or as a reason for why I say that not every marriage is something you should be standing for. And I get a lot of people coming at me saying, when I say these things, they don't understand why I don't put out blanket statements where I say every marriage is meant to be restored. No, every marriage is not meant to be restored. And that's why. Because there are people that bring themselves into standing communities, not because God is there to restore their marriage, but God is bringing them in to expose the deception and the lie. So sometimes they bring themselves, sometimes God brings them into standing so he can show the truth to them. And boy, we have had a lot of people who come into standing ministries and they have their eyes opened and they think, wow, you know what? Maybe I was a little bit premature in divorcing my first spouse for doing exactly what my second spouse just did. And now I'm standing for the second spouse. Maybe I should have stood for my first spouse. Maybe I should have forgave. And, I've seen that too. You would not believe how many times people, all of a sudden find themselves in that situation with a second spouse, and there's no difference. Same exact thing. It's lather, rinse, repeat. And they're thinking, you know what? I need to take a break from marriage, get with God and figure out what the heck is going on, because here I am ready to give up on my second spouse, go find a third spouse. And God is saying, let's go back to the first. Let's go back to the very place that you decided to divorce, find that second spouse, move on. Let's go back there. Let's fix this. And it's so important to understand that your truth doesn't come from the relationship, doesn't come from, how that person treated you, how that person is, well, they've moved on now. They're married now. So, that's where the truth comes. No, the truth comes from God's will. It comes from God's direction for your life. So you need to put marriage down and you need to go back to God and say, you know what, let's start at the beginning. let's start with the first marriage and where it went wrong and what was I actually supposed to do, because I didn't stand. I just followed the ways of the world. I followed my anger. I followed my bitterness. I followed, things that I shouldn't have followed. And so you need to go back there. You need to go back there, and you need to completely and utterly lay yourself at the cross and say, God, here I am. I'm at a place now where I should have been many years ago that I didn't, come and listen to you. I listened to my pain. I listened to my family. I listened to my spouse tell me that they didn't love me anymore, and I believed it and walked away. So you need to go back there, okay? And you need to get with God, and you need to, revisit that place, especially if you are standing for a second, third, fourth, fifth marriage, and you're ready to move on and find again that perfect spouse that you thought number 2 was, that you thought number 3 was, that you thought number 4 was, okay? It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You've got to go to God, and you've got to sit down and open your heart to hear some of the things that you have not wanted to hear. Okay, so let's go back to this question. How do you think faith plays in the role of returning spouses? I believe that faith, if I understand your question, is how do you think faith plays a role in the returning of spouses? Well, standing is first and foremost. For me, faith is everything. What good does it do for you to be praying, God, bring my spouse home, bring my spouse home, bring my spouse home? God brings your spouse home, and that spouse is lost to him forever, never to return to God, never to have a relationship to God. And you're happy now. Your spouse is home. You've got what you wanted, right? You've got your spouse home, and they're not leading you, right? Your husband is not leading you. Your wife is not a helpmeet. So you've got to ask yourself, am I lining up with what God wants for me, or am I just lining up with what I want for myself? If your heart is focused only on, I want my spouse home, I want them to love me, only me, serve me, take care of me, not give a care about God. And I'm being brutally honest here. And the reason I'm saying it this way is because that's exactly how I thought and what I cared about in the beginning, middle, toward the end of my stand. 7 years, folks. It was me. All I cared about was me. And a lot of that had to do with, like I shared in the very beginning of this video, because I was so hurt, because I was so broken, lost in shame, unworthiness, I had formed strongholds of how I coped with things, okay? And part of the way that I coped was I had my husband, and I had a relationship with him that when it was taken from me, I needed that back. I could not, in my mind, I could not survive life if I didn't have the love and the attention of my husband, because God was just not cutting it for me. Like I said, every time I got in the Word, every time I even tried to approach God, I got angry at him because he was too hard to feel loved by. He was too hard to connect with for me. And that was not his fault. That was the shame and the guilt and the condemnation that was putting up walls. So where did I get my love from? I got it from my husband. And how did I get my love? I controlled and made him love me the way I needed. And so all of a sudden, here I was, no longer with the husband, okay? And now I was like running to God, and I still couldn't connect with God in the way I wanted to feel that love. But God had already seen that this is exactly the way it had to be to help me and heal me. And it was painful. It was very painful. And did I fight God? Yes, I did. For a long time, all I wanted was, bring me back what I know works. Give me back my spouse. I'm dying here without knowing some type of love. And so that's how I just lived my life every day, begging God, please just let this man love me again. I need him to love me. I need him to show me that I'm important to him. And no, it wasn't going to happen. God was like, I'm sorry, daughter, but if I do this for you, I'm just putting you right back into the broken place that you've been your whole life. And I'm not doing this. I'm going to be that love for you. I'm going to be that acceptance for you, that everything that you've needed, that you keep trying to get out of your husband. That's what God wanted me to have. And I have now. I have on levels that aren't even close to completion. I still deal with rejection. I still deal with, fear of disappointing him. There's so many things that I deal with, but nothing like it used to be. Now I know that if I'm having an issue, it's not God, it's me. I know that now. I didn't know it before. I didn't understand it before, that it was a belief issue. But I know now that it's a choice that I have to make. Either I trust him and believe he is who he says he is, and I battle whatever is coming against that. And so I am so grateful that God did not listen to my begging, that my pleas and cries of bring my husband's heart back to me didn't work. I'm so grateful that God said, no, I'm not going to give you an idol that is taking you from me. And so please hear me on this. If you're begging God day in and day out, God, just bring him back. Bring her back. I'm lost. I don't know how to live life without them. You need to understand, your prayers should be, God, I don't know how to live my life without you, Lord. I don't know how to live my life without knowing that my spouse doesn't know you. And my spouse needs to know you. My spouse needs to be secure in you. And set your expectations. Husbands, you want a helpmeet that is, following God, because they can't be your helpmeet if they're, if their number one priority in life is not surrendered and submitted to Christ. Same with wives for your husbands. You don't want a man leading you that is being led by the world, by his own flesh, by Satan, by selfish desire. You don't want that. Okay, that's not security. And then what happens is if you have a husband that's not surrendered to Christ, you're going to feel insecure. Deep down, you're not going to have that security. And so what's going to happen is you're going to wind up wanting to control and make yourself secure. Okay? So, again, I'm back getting away from these questions. Long-suffering, love, or idolatry. If you are praying correctly, if you're praying in God's will, which would be what I just shared, that you love God with your whole heart, your spouse loves God with their whole heart, that's not idolatry. If you're praying for God to be first in both your lives, okay? If you're praying, God, I just want my idol back, and you're praying day and night, just give me back what I lost, don't worry, God's gonna knock that down. He's gonna use your prayers of idolatry for idolatry. He's gonna use them to capture your heart, expose what you've got going on that's wrong. He's gonna use that, okay? Because he used it for me, and I've seen him use it. Okay, I've seen him go through and use these things to reveal truth to you, to show you what's not working and how you're after an idol. So I hope that answered your question. I was a little all over the place, but I feel like some of this stuff is really touching on the foundation of why we stand. And that really is about God's will being done above our will. And it's about God's relationships with his children, who we tend to push aside. And we tend to say, me, God, me. And God's trying to say, what about me? What about my relationship? Because you're not going to get into heaven. Your spouse is not going to get into heaven if your marriage gets restored. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that you come through your spouse to make it. That's just not what it is. You have to surrender. You have to love God with your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole being. And that's what this is about, folks. It's about him. So I'm going to take on one more question, because I've been rambling now for 40 minutes. How do you deal with a spouse that shows you and tells you consistently that he really loves you, but at the same time he goes off to SB else? I'm not sure. Goes off to SB else. I don't understand. Sometimes he goes off to something else. Is it okay to actually let him know you are aware of his behavior and you are not falling for his lies? Okay, so one of the things that I've shared before is when our pride wants to run right in and say, you are not making a fool of me. I'm going to expose what you're doing, because keeping it a secret makes me think that you are pulling the wool over my eyes, and that you are thinking you're getting away. You're making a fool of me. Our pride will rush in, and we need to use wisdom. So we need to go to God and we need to say, Lord, is it wise for me to bring their lies to the light? Is that how you want me to handle it? And if God says yes, you've got to learn what that feels like when God is speaking, because it's not going to make you feel in a way that, yes, I'm getting to confront this so they see that I'm not a fool and that they're not taking advantage of me. That's not how God would ask you to do this. That's your pride. That's your pride saying, yes, I get to confront. I get to, let them see that I'm not a fool and that they're not going to make me feel like a fool, right? Okay, that's pride. God's wisdom is going to say something completely different that has nothing to do with you, okay? When God's wisdom comes in and says, yeah, you're going to confront this, you're going to bring this to the light, it's going to be all about the spouse. Not about you feeling better that you just got to expose a lie. This is going to be about the spouse getting to, something. And I don't know what that would be, because I'll tell you right now, every time I ever exposed and confronted a lie, I did it for myself. I did not like the fact that my spouse lied. I wanted to bring that out one way or the other, even if it was sly, sneaky, manipulative, letting them know, oh, she found out, I lied to her. All it did was teach my husband how to lie better, because I was doing it for me. God never asked me, not once that I can think of, did he ever ask me to go and expose a lie. I don't think I even gave God the 5 minutes. I just went and ran right in and did it. Because my pride, there was no way was I going to let him lie and get away with it. I probably made excuses at the time to say, oh, there's no way God would even, want me to cover up this lie. That's not God. Of course God wants me to confront this lie. I don't know what I would tell myself, but boy, I would not handle, I still to this day don't handle lies very well, y'all. It's just, it's a battle with pride, okay? One that I still apparently, need to work on. But, and there's so much insight right there. You're not falling for his lies. That's what it feels like. that saying right there, when someone's lying to you, you fall for his lies, means you're being duped, you're being deceived, and that makes you feel like you're putting out the statement that, yeah, I'm an idiot. Yeah, I'm gullible. And so you have to step up and say, no, I'm not gullible, and I'm not an idiot, and I'm not whatever it is you are coming against. But you can turn that over to God and still maintain whatever it is you're trying to maintain. You know, it's really about how you don't want that other person to get away with lying to you. Trust me, when you turn them over to God, they're not getting away with lying. They're now accountable to God, and in so much of a better way, because when they are lying to you, right, and you choose a different path to handle it, and you say, you know what, God, you know what's going on. I am choosing not to listen to my pride. I'm choosing to let you be the person that handles this. You've just opened the door, oh my goodness, to the Lord intervening, to the Lord handling it in such a way that is going to bring out so much more results and benefits than we could have ever done. So one of the things that I know is when I would confront the lies, did I get the results that I wanted? No. First of all, when I confronted the lies, I confronted with my pride, which made it so I was met with a prideful spouse. I was met with a defensive spouse. So when I confronted a lie, I usually got lied to even more. So that's usually what it was, a battle of pride fighting pride. You made me feel like a fool, and I'm going to let you know that you can't pull the wool over my eyes. And then I was met with well, you're not going to control me. I can lie if I want to and protect whatever it is because it's none of your business. It was just a mess, you guys. Okay? It was just a mess. So what is the alternative? You sit down with God and you just come right out and say, God, my pride demands, is screaming at me. Go confront this thing. Go let them know they're not going to pull the wool over my eyes. They're not going to make me fall for this. But God, I know what's going to happen. It's just going to become an even bigger mess. It's just going to create more, pride on both of our parts. It's going to create a fight. It's going to create strife. It's going to create contention. But nothing in me wants to let this go, Lord. I only have one other option, and that is to ask you to go in and handle this in your time, in your way. And that might mean that you confront the lie. They confess to you, but they never actually confess to me that they lied. Will I be okay with that? And I'm going to say right now, Lord, every part of me says no. I don't feel like I will ever be okay with them not confessing their lies to me. But you know what? That's not what repentance is. God, for them to be set free, they have to confess to you. They have to repent to you. And then if you decide that you want them to confess and say sorry to me, then that's something you've got to work out in them. And most likely you are going to ask them to do that. But it just depends on their level of a lot of different things. Sometimes a spouse is scared to death. And they don't want to tell you what they did because they're scared. Fear is telling them, no, they're never going to forgive me for this. It's going to make a mess. So they won't confess to you, even though you know. They might hold back. Another thing that you have to consider is that there really are some things that God doesn't want you to know because it's not going to benefit you. You might think you've got some of the truth, but that's just going to open a door. When I confronted some of these lies, oh my gosh, I had no idea what that lie was actually hiding. Y'all, the lies are there to hide things. And so when I said, when I confronted and I said, yeah, you weren't really where you said you were. I found out that you were, not at work. Well, guess what? When I found out what he really was doing, where he was really at, I wish I could just go back and say, I'm going to believe he was at work. Because when I found out the truth of what was really going on, that was a lot of pain. It uncovered a lot of things that, I didn't need to know. Didn't need to know. And our pride will sometimes say, you need to know everything. You need to know absolutely everything because you don't want anything hidden from you. You don't want to feel a fool at all. Pride will get you into so much trouble. Oh boy, let me tell you, the opposite of pride is humility, and humility says, nope, I'm just going to trust God with this, with all the hidden details that are out to destroy me. I definitely do not need to know any of that. I could just trust God with it. So be humble. Go to God and confess that you need to expose these lies because you just need to. And they're not going to help you. God, if you live your life with a attitude of, you know what, Lord, if I need to know this, you'll let me know. But I can live knowing that you know nothing is hidden from you. Nothing is hidden from you. And I'm going to trust that you're working it out. You're protecting me. You're keeping me safe. And that if there's anything that you want to bring me in on, you will. But also know that the enemy will bring truth to you just so you'll be devastated as well. So you're going to want to ask God to protect you from the plans of the enemy, bringing things to your attention. We've all had that phone call. Guess what I just found out? Guess what I just saw? Guess what I know? And you're sitting there saying to yourself, oh no, I don't want this, but you can't stop yourself from asking what? What did you just see? What did you just hear? And it would take me days to recover from those phone calls. And I'll tell you, it was like a snowball effect. When I got the phone call, then I had to make the phone calls. Then I had to send the text. Then I had to do the confronting. And it was a mess. It was a mess, you guys. And none of that helped my situation. Hearing something and then and especially through through that third party, not all of it was truth. It was their perception of what they heard or saw. Then what a mess. So try your best to go to God first, especially when you want to run straight to confrontation without giving that time to get with God and find out why. Why am I adamant right now that I have got to confront this lie? Is it pride? Is it fear? Is it worry? Sometimes those are things too that we think if they get away with it, then they'll think that they never, ever, ever have to change because they're getting away. And that's another thing is we think we have to confront because we have to be a consequence instead of letting God be a consequence. So I know that there's other questions and I will try to get to these maybe later, maybe tomorrow. Leave your questions on the video in the comments. And I hope you guys enjoyed my fish tank. I will confess, this is one fish tank of several. This is my hobby. This is my love. I absolutely love aquariums. My first job was at a pet store. And, my dad went and brought home a fish tank. And I got to know the owners of the store. And they hired me, little high school job. And it has stuck with me all these years. I absolutely love, aquarium keeping. And I just can't have one tank. I have to have, one tank for this and one tank for that. So leave your questions in the comments. Please make sure you give the video a like. Let me know how what other content you'd like to see. I do my best to read the comments. I'm really backed up on my emails, really, really backed up. But I am going through them slowly, and some of those questions might, get put into these. I think that's probably why I was kind of all over the place, as I'm lumping a lot of comments, a lot of questions that I've got mulling over in my mind. Sometimes I don't answer right away because there's, just something deeper in the question, in what's going on in your situation. And I need to let, God download some things. And so I will, as I'm cleaning my aquariums, I'm praying. I'm talking to God about you as I'm in there, taking care of my aquariums. I'm praying and asking God, God, is there something I'm missing about this? What's going on with this question? What's going on with this stander? And we talk. I talk to him constantly about you guys, because I'm here. I want to help. I want to understand so I can bring more clarity to situations for you guys. So I just want to thank you for joining me. I thank you so much for the support, the financial support, the donations, the love, the comments, the support that you guys are showing, and for the ministry. So thank you guys, and God bless.